They say that there are only 3 things guaranteed in life. We're born, we're taxed, and then we die. Other than that, the world keeps turning, and each cycle brings us something new. Yet for those of us who find ourselves partaking in this great hobby of ours, there is a 4th guarantee. We all have a backlog of games that get left behind. The labyrinth of the never loaded, the graveyard of the never played, sat there on the shelves of a digital library gathering metaphorical dust as we move on to the next game. Stories that, for many of us, will never be told. My name is Kane, and on occasion I play games, and today I'm here to tell you about one of those stories. This is Nobody Wants to Die. Developed by Polish studio Critical Hit Games, Nobody Wants to Die takes us to the far future of 2329 in the sprawling metropolis of smog and skyscrapers, New York City. Technology in this world has taken us far, so much so that we've even conquered one of the guarantees that I mentioned earlier: death. That is, assuming you have the cash to avoid it. In this future, people can transfer their minds into a different body via an Icarite. This also lets them get stored in memory banks. Of course, these bodies have to come from somewhere, and that's where the grime of this world reveals itself. Citizens of New York City are forced to pay for a subscription to access new bodies and keep their own. If they can't cough up the cash in time, they're arrested and auctioned off to be somebody else's brand new vessel. This bit of set dressing is the core of Critical Hit's world and is what makes it so fascinating to me. We play as the grizzled and off-duty police detective James Karra, a 120-year-old former baseball star who took to the life of solving crimes once he swapped from his original body. Now, his most recent body is Cheap, a classy junkie who he's struggling to synchronize with fully. His memories are fading away and he's haunted by his past and the tragic accident that led to his suspension and need for a new body. Unofficially, the chief assigns Karra to a very important case along with a handler by the name of Sarah Kai, a young cop who is trying to make her way up the ranks and wants nothing to do with Karra's reputation. The case? The mysterious death of Edward Green, one of the world's top elites. You head to his penthouse only to find Green hanging from a tree that had been at the center of an explosion. His Icarite? Destroyed. He's never coming back. A suspicious set of circumstances for Karra to decipher. The main gameplay loop of Nobody Wants to Die takes the form of these detective sequences where you navigate a crime scene and use your various tools to piece together what actually happened. The main tool for this is the Reconstructor, a device that lets detectives piece together and scrub through the recorded timeline of events to search for new clues and potential angles for them to follow. Karra also uses a pocket X-ray scanner and a UV light to assist with his work and further piece together the crime scene. This is likely where Nobody Wants to Die is going to lose a lot of people, if I'm being honest. The investigation sequences are very linear, often leading the player from one objective to the next pretty directly, and while I found the experience to be enjoyable and enjoyed using the various tools to make everything fit into place, I'll admit that I do wish I was left to fend for myself that little bit more with the game, so I could make more discoveries on my own. It makes up for this a little bit with the corkboard sequences, where you and Sarah string together all the different bits of evidence to come to conclusions as you track down the ones responsible for the targeting of the elite, and the various conspiracies going on around you. These sequences do actually let players come to their own conclusions a bit more and make deductions that will impact things later in the story. Which I should mention, I think is pretty good overall. I really like how the narrative is slowly unraveled and pieced together as you and Sarah go out of your way to investigate these murders, and the corrupt ruling class that runs the city at its center. The rapport you build with Sarah is influenced by your choices, but for my playthrough, we became a pretty solid duo by the endgame. I also really like the voice acting of the two. Philip Sacramento and Keaton Talmadge were great as James Karra and Sarah Kai respectively, and Johnny LaQuasto as the killer's voice was a really fun addition to the cast. He had big Ghostface energy in his performance and tone. Also, fun fact, Johnny LaQuasto was briefly a commentator for WWE on its Cruiserweight show 205 Live, which is a really weird and random connection and crossover of my personal interests. He's also Aoife, or Aoife, I don't know how to pronounce that name, in Genshin, if you play that game and know that character, but yeah, he was really good in this. Unfortunately, Nobody Wants to Die doesn't provide the high-flying action of a Cruiserweight bout, however. while the narrative is absolutely the main reason you should play this game, I can't deny that the gameplay loop did feel a little repetitive and drawn out at points. The lack of action outside of cutscenes became noticeable towards the end of the game, and while I don't think it should have become a full-blown FPS by any means, that would have been too jarring, some changes would have been appreciated. Something like a stealth section after we're removed from the case, perhaps. Trying to investigate an ongoing crime scene while avoiding the many guards and patrols that are there, so we can find important bits of evidence. The gameplay loop does evolve as the game progresses, but I don't really think it does it enough to really justify it. There is a big change towards one of the final sequences that you're reconstructing, but it's still mostly the same, with a few additional quick-time events here and there, which was a bit disappointing to see. I also think that structurally speaking, the game's narrative became way too dependent on the character getting knocked out or blacking out to progress the story trope. I don't mind it now and again, but it got to be a little comical with how frequent it happened in the final act. On the one hand, it does make sense given the health of Detective Karra deteriorating as it is, on the other, maybe space them out a little bit more. To the people at Critical Hit, I hope that this isn't the last time this world is seen. The retro-futuristic cyberpunk aesthetic of Nobody Wants to Die is absolutely gorgeous. The blending of 1920s and 30s imagery with that level of sci-fi gives the world a great sense of style that, while not wholly unique, makes for a wonderful genre piece like this game. The concept of body swapping also has way more legs to stand on than this one game delivers. The idea of trapping minds in a memory bank and a potential body theft/body hopping narrative would make for a fantastic follow-up. An assassin or spy who's using new bodies to keep their cover and infiltrate different circles, or a heist to try and capture an Icarite from the banks, stealing it to rescue them or hold them hostage, or even stop them from coming back entirely. There are so many ways that this concept could be explored, and I really hope that they do come back to this world in the future, if not right away. Overall, I'm going to give Nobody Wants to Die a 7 out of 10. It's an incredibly solid narrative carried by a strong lead and a great setting, but it's held back by the gameplay never really evolving, and an unwillingness to let the player figure everything out themselves. I think what this game brings to the table the most, however, is a delightful commitment to its genre, something which I feel like is a lot rarer in contemporary video games. While there are many great games out there for all kinds of genres, I find that most developers will shy away from truly embracing the quirks and tropes that make them great. Nobody Wants to Die might be a sci-fi cyberpunk setting, but as a piece of media, it is a detective noir first and foremost, and it wears that proudly on its sleeve, and it's why I think the game is worth playing. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to see future content. Also, if you watched the Fallout video, genuinely thank you. To say I'm blown away by how that video was performed is, frankly, an understatement. Never in my life did I think something I made would get that kind of attention, and frankly, I still don't know if I quite believe it. More videos like that will come, but I wanted to do something smaller in the meantime, as those projects do take a while. Thank you again, and I'll see you all soon.